Hello and welcome to the Random Thought Show. My name's Jacob Tober.
And my name's Darren McInnes. On the show we talk about anything and everything in fitness, high performance and health.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Random Thought Show.
Hello everyone.
I'm joined today by a very special guest, one of our newest coaches here at Core Advantage, Pat Wilson. Pat, how are you going?
Good, mate. Good.
Excited to be on.
I'm excited to be here. It's nice to be on the other side of the glass.
Yeah.
For reference, everyone watching, literally just there, if you see a grey shadow, that is me. So it's nice to be on the other side.
So Pat will be, while we're filming these, be busy programming. So you're pretty new here at Core Advantage. Mm-hmm. Talk to us about what a Core Advantage day in the life of Pat Wilson looks like.
Yeah, so I'm currently almost about 6 months in. So naturally being a new coach, I don't have a large roster of athletes. So coming in, it was build your athletes from ground up.
Yeah.
So naturally anyone who was coming in or made a first inquiry would naturally go to myself.
Yep.
So I would be taking probably about 90% of our screens. So
Yep.
the assessment, going through our movement skill, our biomechanical analysis. So anyone that's probably new in the last 5 months has probably screened with myself. So it's tying up the loose ends there and getting the program sorted, putting them in through the system and basically making sure that they're ready to go from day one.
Yeah, because context, when you're working with athletes, and we coach in very much a team collaborative type sense. So when you coach athletes in that sense, you still have what we call a point man, someone who's running point on that athlete. So they're liaising with parents if it's a junior, or they're talking to physios or sports doctors or surgeons or whatever it might be. So when you come in new to a business like ours, where we're coaching with a team, we've got a large group of athletes, it's hard to just go, I'll work with these 50 athletes if they've got a history of working with someone else. So you might know them on the floor, but knowing what they're doing in terms of their specifics and the more finer details is a little tricky. So it takes a little time to build up that base.
Of course, yeah. And the context is so important. And it's super awesome to have someone from day one, you know, their story, you know, the parents, everything just moves a little smoothly.
Nice.
So, yeah.
How many athletes are you up to now? How many athletes are you working with?
Just pushed 48, I think. So hitting 50.
Half
a ton is coming up soon. So.
Nice. Very nice. Now, before we go much further, those who are watching are going to be a little concerned about that dirty scar above your eye. So I only saw it a couple of days ago, and I was like, Richmond fan. Richmond have just won the grand final.
Yes.
Pat got in a little bit of trouble on Swan Street. That wasn't the case.
No.
Tell us what did happen.
So the dots would line up that it was a mad Richmond supporter in the middle of Swan Street, and next thing you would think that something would happen in that case. But no, it didn't. It was a simple accident of just a friendly football game between mates and a wild elbow, and naturally striking
an elbow
my head. Yeah.
from a mate. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Completely harmless, but yeah, that wild elbow has resulted in 6 stitches in my
There's
leg.
6 stitches under there.
6 stitches in there.
Had to bleed. Like crazy.
Yeah, fluidly.
Heads do bleed.
Yes.
No concussion or anything like that?
No concussion, so all good. It was literally quite harmless. Just got it right in that sweet spot of just puncturing the flesh.
Nasty.
Yeah.
Very nasty.
Yeah.
So, brings up the idea of youth.
Yes.
Being young.
Bring
and
it up.
Sometimes those things are a result of youth and recklessness. Other times they're just unlucky, like you mentioned.
Yep.
You're a pretty young coach. How old are you, Pat?
22.
22. And you're
22 years old.
So you're full-time here. And you've also got a role at, is it North Melbourne?
North Melbourne Football Club. Yep.
What's your role there?
So I'm a sports trainer for the men's VFL side. Yep. So I've been there for the last 7 months, working through the 2019 season. Yeah.
So you're full-time here. How big of a role is it there, and what do you do with your North Melbourne gig?
Yeah, so it's part-time hours, about 2 to 3 days a week. And basically the role there, it's quite different to S&C. And I've been doing trainer for a while now, and it's just naturally been a progressive thing that I touched through with uni and just kind of kept ties in along the way. So a trainer is, for anyone who doesn't know, is essentially someone who's first respondent to any medical or trauma based on the field, court, whatever it may be, whatever sport it is. Particularly for AFL rules, I will be on the sidelines, just on the other side of the fence. If someone goes down, they're looking a little ginger, they cop a hit. Basically, I'm the first person who goes out and can check to see if they're okay.
It's kind of like emergency first aid in a sporting sense.
The very first responder to anything trauma-based.
And it used to be that the trainers ran water, but they've now kind of reduced that role at the AFL level.
At the AFL, yes.
Is it the same at VFL?
Yeah, no. So actually at VFL, I'm still, every stoppage, every goal attempt, I'm out there running water to the players.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice. And so just VFL, no AFL role?
No AFL. They're two very separate teams just because of having to travel for away games. You can't, and particularly being just part-time, it's hard to balance that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just VFL for myself.
Okay. Nice. And different to your role here, obviously.
Very different.
Do you have much of a pre-game role? So, you obviously, during the game, you're running water, stuff like that. What's your role pre and post game or at trainings? Is it very different?
I'd say 80% of the role is pre-post game, because a lot of the role is player prep. Everyone has to, by AFL rules, get their ankles strapped.
Really?
And naturally,
is that a North Melbourne rule?
No, it's AFL rule. Yeah.
Really?
So everything from AFL stems down into VFL because they want to be consistent. Procedures stay the same through both leagues.
Yeah, because a lot of players from the AFL are going to play, if they're not in the squad, they're going to be playing them extra minutes in VFL to get the games in.
Yeah.
So everyone has to strap their ankle?
Everyone has to strap their ankles.
Wow. Okay. I didn't know that was a thing. I know some teams have a policy where it's like everyone straps their ankles because there's two sides of the coin when it comes to ankle strapping. One side is, well, yeah, you might prevent ankle sprains and you might create some stability and things like that around the ankle. But the flip side of that is chronically strapping your ankle. And do they do it for training as well?
Yep. Training.
So every time you run, you're running with reduced dorsiflexion, reduced potentially proprioception, which could lead to atrophy through the muscles of the ankle, perineals, things like that. But also, because of that reduced dorsiflexion range, you could be adding extra load to the knees. Is that one of those things where they're just like, we just need to prevent all the ankle sprains, just need to eliminate all ankle sprains?
Ankle sprains comes first. It's at the top of the priority list, and it just goes before anything else.
That's so interesting. Because it's like that. You're robbing Peter to pay Paul sometimes, where you're preventing the ankle sprains, but potentially causing extra load at the knee, the lower back, things like that over time, which may accumulate into, well, particularly in basketball with so much knee load, you may save a couple of ankle sprains, but you might lead to accelerated wear and tear on the knees. Very interesting.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk about your sports background as an athlete.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before we then go through sort of your uni stuff, and we'll sort of see where the conversation goes from there. You're not a footballer.
I'm not a footballer.
Tell me what sports you played as a junior, what you were good at. Go from there.
Yeah. So naturally, just as a young kid, I wanted to play anything and everything.
So sports maniac.
Sports maniac. Whether it was tennis, I'd never played football, so it was mainly tennis, cricket. I got into golf pretty early, just because my mum's a pretty good golfer, and naturally you just tag along. Yeah. So I just went down for a 9 every now and then, and played competitively for a couple of seasons.
Right. Did you get a handicap?
I did.
What did you get to?
I got down to 11 at about 14, and then basically just stopped competing.
Why did you stop?
Soccer. So soccer was...
So your real love.
Yeah, my real love is soccer, and I've been playing since about...
Bring that out there.
Yeah, bring that one up. So I've been playing for since I was 6. Yeah, and then played all the way up until I was 20. And naturally moving from Gippsland, the country. So I'm a country boy.
You're a country boy, yep.
Yeah, so a country boy. The balance between having to play sport, university, working up here to pay rent and all those things, the balance went from playing sport into living. So I had to put aside my love of sport, which was soccer. And then, that was pretty much, the majority of my junior sporting involvement was soccer. So went up to a pretty reasonably high level, or as high as you can down in the country leagues at that time.
Is there the highest league here in Australia is the A League?
Yep.
And below that is NPL,
NPL.
Premier League?
Yep.
And then there's divisions of NPL?
Yeah, then you have divisions of NPL, and then it's state leagues below that.
And what did you play?
So I went up to a state league 2.
And then state league 1 before the NPL start?
Yeah.
And when you moved to Melbourne, to study at Deakin, Sports Science?
Yep.
Did you play any soccer up here? Did you get a chance to experience NPL level?
No, I didn't. No, so I never actually got to experience the full level of NPL. A regret, but there's definitely plenty of years ahead, so there's definitely not a reason why I can't go back to it, for sure.
Still a very young man. Do you have ambitions to get back to soccer?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So I haven't played for 3 years now, 3 years competitively, so I'm itching to get back out there. And the last time I played soccer, I was 19. So my body has changed a lot, particularly with going through the athletic development program and learning as a coach. You start to tinker with how can I actually improve my skills as a soccer player based on exercises I'm doing in the gym. So I think I was about 15 kilos lighter last time I played soccer.
15. Okay, so those who are just listening, not watching, Pat is not a fat person by any stretch of imagination. You're reasonably well, but 15. How light were you?
I was pretty light. So last time I played soccer, I was about 68 kilos.
Same height?
6 foot.
And what are you now?
6'2".
So you've grown a little higher, but just stacked on a whole bunch of muscle.
Bunch of muscle.
And is that a result of just, we're about to jump to a pro tip, but before we do, is that just a result of you just getting in the gym and getting after, and Is that where your love for this sort of S&C stuff came
Yeah.
through your own development?
Complete consistency of just wanting to get better and stronger, and obviously being quite wiry as a young guy. Most young men want to start the gym to put on muscle.
Yep.
And that was probably the first couple months of my journey, was how much muscle can I actually put on. And then from there it was, okay, how can I refine this? And then from there, that's when the sports science came into it, and naturally just went into a university degree.
Yeah, nice. Let's jump to a pro tip now. It's going to be your pro tip, Pat. You're pretty big fan of the wall balls here in the gym. Which exercise, before a little teaser before we jump into the pro tip, what are we going to talk about in this pro tip before we come back?
Yeah. Well, let's go. We're going to go through some progressions of a scoop throw. I think will be beneficial for everyone to listen to, and just generally a correct setup and technique for any high velocity wall ball exercises.
With the scoop particularly, which is, I personally find it quite a bit trickier. Maybe it's because I've spent more time playing basketball, an upper body sport with more of the throw coming from the arms.
Yeah.
Whereas as a kicking athlete yourself, throwing from the hips.
Yeah, and particularly just the rotation through a golf swing.
That's where it comes from.
For anyone who has played golf, particularly in here, I'll start with, have you played golf before? Because that foot drive into the ground and rotating through your hips and torso replicates so much through that.
So that's why I'm not very good with the scoop throw.
I think that's why it comes naturally to me.
Correlates strongly to my lack of golfing ability. All right, let's go to that pro tip now and have a look at the scoop throw, and we'll be back shortly.
Hey guys, it's Pat here out on the gym floor, ready for your Iron Edge Pro tip. Today I'm here with the Iron Edge wall ball, and we're going to go through our progressive series for the scoop throw. We're starting on the most simple exercise using a joint by joint approach, moving into more complex reactive exercises. Let's get into it. Okay, so here's level 1. We call this a split stance scoop throw. Things you want to work on is inside leg is locked off to the wall. Back leg is driving intensely into the floor, and the ball sits into your pocket. From here, all you're going to do is scoop the ball into the wall. Rotating from the hips, catching on the way back. We're now on to progression level 2. This is our stationary scoop throw, and you should notice that my distance away from the wall has now increased. This is because we're starting to introduce more of our kinetic chain. The ball starts into the hip pocket away from the wall. My feet are hip width apart, and now what we're going to do is we're going to transfer our weight from our back leg into the front as we rotate. So a few things to focus on when you're attempting to do the stationary scoop throw is you want to keep the ball close to your body. Try not to let your hands raise out away from your hips. It sits there nicely into your pocket. This is going to allow you to rotate through your hips and torso through to the wall. A second thing to note when attempting the stationary scoop throw is we want to sit into our hips, particularly loading the leg that's outside of the wall. This is going to allow us to take the transfer of energy through our hips and fly the ball into the wall.
All right, we're back. So before we headed off and sort of talking about your soccer, you mentioned in there about your uni and sort of how life got in the way of your soccer career and didn't really get to play much when you moved to Melbourne, but sort of and putting in those 15 kilos through developing a love for the gym and the work behind the athletic side of things. Talk a little bit about, and tell us a little bit about your journey from being a soccer-obsessed country boy, getting into the gym and sports science and strength and conditioning, and how that sort of developed, I suppose from sort of high school through uni through to now.
Yeah.
If you want to just sort of take that as you will.
For sure, yeah, exactly. So it happened quite naturally, and it's interesting that as a young male from about year 3 in primary school, all I wanted to do and all I wanted to be was a civil engineer.
Right.
And I didn't really understand what a civil engineer was at the time, but I knew it was nice.
I don't actually know what a civil engineer does. What does a civil engineer do?
So a civil engineer is essentially the person that is planning your city structures. They are planning the routes of your sewers, the roads.
Right. So all the stuff we don't really think about that makes cities, like you flush your toilet, that's got to go somewhere.
Has to go somewhere.
We have a storm and it rains, that's got to go somewhere. So that's kind of the civil engineer's job.
Yeah. And so that's what I was obsessed with for a long time. And
were either of your parents civil engineers, or
No.
you have an uncle or an auntie?
no one. I think it just came from creativity of just building. I loved to build things as a young kid.
Normally that leads to, I want to be a carpenter. Did you go a little meta and go, okay, who pays the carpenters and who, like, did you go back a few
It went
steps?
downstream.
Yeah.
Yep. So how do I take 2 steps back, and then how does that happen?
Right.
And naturally, just being a creative person, it was draw up plans and then go from there. But it was interesting because I didn't truly understand exactly what it was at the time. It just sounded nice.
Heard the term civil engineer. They sound smart and sophisticated. I'm doing some of that.
Yeah, let's do that. So, and then from high school, it was a year 9 work experience. And then I actually did a civil engineer experience with a surveyor and a group of engineers and hated it. Hated it.
So the dream did not match the reality
No,
at
it didn't.
all.
It was shattering. It was
So
shattering.
what was so bad about it?
It was a lot of sitting down and a lot of just pre-planning. I didn't actually like how much it was just sit down, punch a couple numbers, and it was a lot of what they call AutoCAD, so programming through computers for design processes.
So it was like a lot of meetings and like organizing to organize, a lot of pre-action stuff. So it wasn't just going out and like, right, dig the holes here and put the roads there and make this lane here. It was just like, oh, we got to get the funding and like a lot more admin than you would have liked.
Yeah, so I went in quite naive and it kicked me up the bum.
And so when you're a kid, there's a lot of pressure in high school, and I'm not a fan of it at all. It's like as soon as you get to year 10, and you're like, well, what are you going to do? What are you going to study? Are you going to go to uni? Do you want to do this? It's like if you're 16 and soccer is your life, and you think you're going to be a civil engineer, all of a sudden it's gone. It's a lot of pressure to like, oh, what are you going to do now? What's next? And did you get a lot of that? Did you have teachers, parents, siblings who were like, come on, you got to make your mind up? Or did you float a little bit from then when your civil engineer dream was crushed?
Yeah, so once it was crushed, I was literally back to ground zero. And because all I loved at that time was mates and soccer. And they were the same people because my good friends were who I played soccer with, also at school with me. So that's really all I had at the time, and that's what I was really enjoying. But
what town did you grow up in?
I was originally from Traralgon, so I went to school in Warragul.
Okay.
Traralgon is in Gippsland, so east side of Melbourne.
How many people?
25.
Okay, 25,000. So it's not
Sub 30.
Not tiny though.
No,
Like that's big enough that there's a handful of schools and there's a good chance you don't know everyone in the town.
No,
Because
exactly.
like some people in the country, like so the town I'm from, Portland, has 9,000 people. Pretty much knew every single person.
Yep.
Anyone who was within 2 years above or below me, I knew whether they played basketball, footy, netball, swimmers, whatever they did. You knew that person through a friend of a friend. But 25,000, that's big enough that there's pretty broad scope for stuff.
And having the gap between school was an hour away from home.
Oh, right.
I would spend most of my time away from my hometown.
On the bus?
On the bus, yeah. So 2 hours each way on the bus.
Yeah.
80% of my time was away from home.
And so 9 and 10, friends, mates, soccer, that became sort of it. Did you very quickly realise that, okay, maybe there's something in this sports thing? How'd that go about?
Yeah, well, wasn't until mid-year 12.
Right.
I never had the pressure from teachers, parents saying, you need to sort something out.
That's good. Nice. Good work, parents and teachers.
Had very good support from my parents particularly. They said, just do your best in year 12. That'll set you up for what you want to do at the end of the year.
And you can make your mind up later.
So it was the first 6 months of year 12 and said, just put your head down, do what you need to do, and had a good balance of subjects that could set me up for a bunch of different things. And naturally, at school, you have a career counsellor, and my career counsellor was fantastic.
Nice.
And they look through your results and they say, cool, you're doing really well at this, and this and things like that. And then how does that correlate into uni degrees? And what came up was sport and exercise science.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and then I literally latched onto that, how to think about it.
So it was recommended to you?
It was recommended to me, yeah.
So you were kind of like, I don't know, something. And they're like, you're pretty good at this.
Yeah.
And then that sparked something?
It sparked something, and then I kind of just ran with it, and then really just didn't look back. I really didn't look back, and I just put, pedal to the metal.
So got into Deakin?
Got into Deakin, in Burwood.
Yep. Straight out of high school to have a gap year?
Straight out of high school.
Straight out.
So I finished high school, in September, October of 2015, and then moved to Melbourne January 2016.
Bang. Did you live on res?
I didn't the first year, so I missed out actually for first year res. So I just lived in a 1-bedroom apartment by myself.
How was that?
Tough. It was very tough.
So I went to Deakin as well, and I was lucky enough to live on res for my first 2 years. Best experience ever.
Yeah.
In terms of like you're nervous, you live hours from the city, you've barely been driven in a suburb, let alone, and all of a sudden you're whacked in this building with 200 other people, all from the country, a couple of internationals, and it's like, okay, there are people like me who do the same thing.
Settle in very well.
We can help each other.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah.
You didn't have that.
I didn't have that, no.
Isolating?
Very, very much so. So I went into a a student housing accommodation is what it was essentially called. And from there, it was largely international. So I think I was about the 1% of English speaking.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So a lot of internationals, but
A lot of internationals.
not English speaking internationals.
Not English speaking internationals. So there wasn't a lot of mix between everyone else.
Yep.
So I moved to this big city, which I hadn't really travelled to too much. So into the big smoke, living on my own in a 1-bedroom apartment with no job. Literally just took things with me into this room and just had uni. That was it. Uni 3 days a week, no job. The rest of the time was to spend on my own.
The sports science degree is very relaxed in terms of contact hours. So there is a bit of time to yourself, which is quite nice about it.
Yeah. So for the first 6 months, didn't have a job, and I was searching for a job for those 6 months. And then all my mates were up in Melbourne as well, but you don't want to be that guy that intrudes on their time because they're still settling, they're still finding their friends from that. So I kind of just had my head down and was just working on me for a bit, really.
Did your own thing?
Yeah, did my own thing.
And then, so from there, talk through how I've moved on to res by the sounds of it in the second year.
Second year uni, moved on to res.
Nice.
Yeah. So that was a lot better. Obviously meeting a lot more people. And then one of my good mates actually now, who I live right across the door from, he was also studying the same degree. And we were both in the same point. I was 1 year ahead but had no experience. I'm like, we need to get some experience. So jumped onto the careers page through Deakin.
Nice.
And first thing that came up was sports trainer for Upper Ferntree Gully.
Yep.
And I was like, sports trainer, sounds good.
Yep.
Let's go for it.
Tick some boxes.
Yeah, ticks the boxes. Had a look into it, went down for a training session and basically spoke to the EP who was running the rehab program there.
Yep.
And naturally just it evolved into...
EP, exercise physiologist, for those who don't know.
physiologist,
Yep.
Yep. And it went down for the first real practical experience of what sporting was, and exercise science.
I think that's so crucial. Getting that experience early in your degree is really an absolutely pivotal part of it. I did, what did I do? So sports science as well, very, very similar story, but I obviously had Reds the first year, so I had a little more support behind me, which I was lucky for. But I then went to Sandy Zebras, and so they had a sports trainer in the VFL as well, same thing, strapping ankles, running water, that kind of thing. And just... like not many people make careers out of being an athletic trainer, but just getting around athletes, like there's AFL players there. Oh my God, there's such and such, and working with an actual physio or an EP and watching how they do it. Just it's amazing how much you pick up in that kind of environment, whether it be VFL level like you're up north, or whether it be something like Upper Ferntree Gully in the amateurs or whatever it might be. But just immersing yourself in some form of sporting context, like, okay, this is frantic. There's a lot going on, especially on game day. There's a lot of stress, and is he going to play? Isn't he going to play? Can we get him back out there? All those sort of things. But just there's so much you pick up that you don't consciously learn. It's just like subconscious, like, I remember seeing this thing that he did for that injury, or he did that for this, and it just accelerates your development so much more than just the books.
Yeah,
I think,
absolutely.
Which is why the practical that Deakin runs is so important. Getting 140 contact hours, getting into a place, and then going from there is really, really crucial.
Yep, agreed.
So when you did the Ferntree Gully thing, how long were you there for?
So 1 season.
So just 1 year?
Just did it for the 1 season. Yep. And then by the time that ended, it was third year of uni. So that was 2000 and...
Would have been 17?
Yeah.
15, 16, 17?
No, so started 16. So
I
it would have been
started
18.
16.
Yeah, it would have been 18.
So
So 2018.
last year, yeah.
Yeah, it was my last year of uni. And then from there, like you said, the practical that Deakin runs, 140 hours, I came to here.
And Core Advantage, yeah.
Started the internship at Core Advantage.
Nice.
Recommended by the EP from...
Who was that EP?
That's Miranda Morris.
I don't know that name.
Out in Ferntree Gully. So
Friend of Durham's, potentially.
Just
Or just-
heard of it through
just
the
new mates.
grapevine.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
Yep. So if this is what you're looking into via strength and conditioning, maybe start here.
How'd you go in your interview? There's always good, because Durham is a great interviewer.
Very good, yeah.
And he puts a lot of pressure on young sports science students. How did your interview go? Were you first semester 2018?
First semester.
Yeah. And so you would have come in for your interview end of second year 2017, the year before.
Yes.
To apply for the next February.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Which we're going through right now. So at the moment, applications are about to close.
Yep.
So talk through your interview. Was it a cruisy one, or was it more like mine, covered in sweat and full of stress?
It was somewhere in the middle. It wasn't quite like yours. Obviously, I was nervous because it was dependent on a lot in terms of finding a placement, and being at the time where I thought this is what I wanted to do. It was start from the top. So my understanding of just going for anything, whether it's an internship job, just start from the top. Start with the smartest people. And that's why I came to here. And then obviously doing my background checks and doing things in terms of what core advantage is putting out in terms of content and things like that. I probably had about 2 months of listening to Durham and yourself prior to coming here. So
by the old podcast,
by the old podcast. So when I came in and had the the interview, it was someone who I've been listening to for the last couple of months. So not knowing them personally, but seeing them so much was an experience I probably hadn't had before. I was quite nervous, and there was a lot riding on myself. So I put in the pressure on myself to do well. And it was just the general anatomy questions, which I got 2 or 3 right.
Nice. Some people go 0-4 on those questions. So it is interesting to see like that specific knowledge and where it is and where someone's at. And also like even whether you get them all right or get them all wrong, that's not a determinant of whether you get in or not to the internship. But it's just a good test of how you handle the pressure and also where the gaps are, and recognizing, actually there's a fair bit left to learn, even though I'm going into 3rd year now. So but no, it was overall it was a good experience. There was obviously some things that I didn't answer, but I think the most beneficial thing that I did was I said I didn't know. I didn't try and wade myself through it and try and like just drag myself through lies. I honestly said that I don't know. But obviously falling back onto that is, if you don't know, how are you going to learn? So the big thing was I don't know, but I will find out. Yep.
Yeah,
nice.
I think that's one thing that definitely helped me out for sure. Yeah.
And then did the internship, how'd that go?
Amazing. So first S&C experience tied everything together. So naturally,
because you'd obviously been lifting weights a bit yourself.
Yeah.
Where had you been getting your knowledge for that from? Have you been just doing your own research online or through the degree or?
Yeah, so it was part research online. If there's something that sparked my interest, that would dive into it. But naturally it would come from university. And then, just kind of connect the two between my own time outside of uni and then also what I'm learning in classes and seminars and things like that. And then coming here, it was, just a totally another ball game. It was the specifics of what I wanted to learn, rather than having your generic or your anatomy unit and then going in through a biomechanics and maybe even a psych. It was coming through here and doing the internship. Everything that I wanted to learn was in here. Yeah. So it was nice to have that shift of focus.
Yeah. Nice. And then there's the practical component as well. Actually, I think like the education units that we deliver, we're quite proud of them, and they're well researched and they complement what you do at uni quite nicely. But I think actually getting a chance to spend time with athletes who are actually in season, out of season, going through rehabs, whatever, is so crucial. Yeah,
exactly. And just having that, speaking to an athlete, being a coach, having the personal
having
skills.
conversations, being a person. Yeah,
exactly. So which is not something I didn't have at the beginning, which was obviously probably the most stressful part. Is you're on the gym floor. Now you have to coach. Go deliver some coaching. Exactly. And
it's the biggest missing link I think that we see across internships, across cohorts, is that ability to have conversations and ability. Like we all like by 3rd year, you know the stuff. You know a decent level of stuff. There's gaps to be filled, of course, which is why the internship content exists. But having a chance to go, okay, Pat, how are you going today? I feel rubbish, Jacob. My ankle's sore, my knees flared up, I got a really tight back, got the finals this week, what should I do? Having those, you might not know the answers right there in the spot, especially during your internship, but having those conversations and go, oh wow, this person's in this sort of a mood, when then I need to adjust my strategy and be a bit of a social chameleon, if you will. And it's not about being disingenuous, you still want to be an authentic self, but being able to go, okay, this person's in this state, we need to do this to get the best result for today and get a great workout or get a great session in, and then go from there. It's a hard skill to teach, and it's a hard skill to learn.
Yeah, yep, exactly. And I remember it, and people who were asking about what I was doing and what have you learnt, and interns at the time going into the senior internship, being one internship above the next group, you would get some questions from the junior interns or the previous intern group, and they would ask, what's the most important thing you've learned? And at the time I said, it's being able to talk to different athletes of different ages with different common goals. So I think the way I put it was, you could literally be in the gym and you could stand one direction and talk to a 30-year-old NFL player. And then you talk in a similar sense that they can understand you, maybe some more scientific words.
And being able to connect on a human level as well.
And then that might just be your sign-in process of, hey, feeling on the day, cool, get into your workout. And then you turn around, you do a full 180, and then you're talking to a 12-year-old dancer. Who's a high-level dancer, but is a kid brand new to the gym, 3rd session ever, has knee pain, whatever it might be, and then he's like, okay, now I have to be able to relate to this human.
and it's tough. It's challenging. I think seeing that evolution in interns, and I went through the same evolution myself way back. You're making me feel very old. You're talking about internships last year. It's such a valuable evolution to go through that process and understand and learn those skills along the way. And go, yeah, well, okay. I actually just I'm not that good at talking to people, and just need to learn those skills. And you develop and you evolve, and you have hits and misses, and you go, okay, I kind of stuffed that conversation up a bit. I kicked their bucket over. I wasn't, didn't understand, empathise it well enough, or whatever it might be. But that's soft. People call. I had a conversation with Darren about it, not on the podcast, but off air. We had a conversation the other day about the idea of people call it soft skills, and that's to suggest that they're hard to learn, more artful, more nuanced, things like that. But soft skills, the word soft suggests they're less relevant. The hard skills, you've got to have the hard skills. It kind of has that toughness to it. Whereas soft, it's kind of like it's a bit whimsical. It's not. That's a poor delineation. It's those social skills, that ability to interact and communicate and read emotion and adjust conversation and deal with all those sort of things. It's not just about hard versus soft, right versus wrong, quantitative versus qualitative. I forgot what the word we ended up coming up with, but we had a word to determine that is better than soft. But I think it's the hardest thing to learn, and it's one of the most important things to learn. Have you read Brett Bartholomew's Conscious Coaching?
Not the whole thing, no.
Bits of it though?
Bits of it though, yeah.
Such a valuable book. Just the idea of, okay, not every individual is the same. Even though they have the same goals in the same sport, how they go about it is variable, is different. They want different things out of this. And some people like being pushed and, not yelled at, but like they want intensity, they want, action and energy. Other people want, support and ear. So being able to adjust that is such a crucial skill.
Agreed. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So I think that's enough about the soft skills.
Sure.
Anything else in terms of your development that you want to share in terms of practical advice or experience for anyone else who might be thinking about the internship right now, if they're currently going through
absolutely. Yeah, I think the big things that I sort of focused on was, and one that's really important, is ask good questions. Have a think about what you're going to ask before asking it. Ask a question that's going to create conversation rather than, yeah, you're right. No, you're wrong.
Yeah, a bit more specificity is valuable, and a little more nuance too. Asking, how's this specific context different to that specific context? Those ones are really valuable, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Your questioning skill is really valuable, I think, yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Anything else?
Take opportunities that are given to you. I think there was a few times through here with the internship and just partnerships that we have with clubs, things came up where as interns we were offered to come down to, whether it's a track and field day from Core Advantage, doing some testing, showing up our protocols for screening and assessments, just jumping and saying, yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah, get your hands dirty.
Yeah, get your hands dirty, for sure.
Whether it's through a formal internship and then you get extra options inside that internship, or things like being a trainer, just getting practical. So valuable.
Yeah,
we
absolutely.
talked at length about that. Nice. Now, before we wrap up today, I want to take a complete tangent here. So I walked into the office, into the gym the other day, and it's spring now, so the weather's nice. So all the other coaches were sitting out on the gym floor with the roller door up, bit of sun.
Yep.
Nice, really nice work environment.
Yeah, it's a nice place to be.
And I walked in, and Pat and Josh, clearly there'd been a conversation that I was joining halfway through, and Pat and Josh yelled out and go, Jacob, how fast can you run 100? Oh, well, I don't know. I've sort of done shorter than 100 and longer than 100, so I couldn't really say 13 something. I don't know. And then what we quickly realised was the boys were putting together a team of coaches to take on a team of athletes. And then the follow-up question was, who would you pick?
Yeah.
The four best Core Advantage 100-metre runners, don't have to be track and field athletes, could be any sport, versus the coaches. And we worked out the best team for the coaches is Pat, Josh, probably, it'd be a mixed team, so then Tennille and Meg. So
yep. 2 boys, 2 girls.
2 boys, 2 girls. And I said I'd take the athletes hands down.
Yep.
And you're very confident that the coaches got it. I'd like to flesh out and unpack a little bit of your confidence, because I don't think it's warranted.
And I think it's purely that. It is just sheer confidence. It is just sheer confidence that...
Verging on cockiness, maybe?
We're going to get the job done. Yeah.
So how fast can you run the 100?
Well, I thought I could run sub 12.
Which is... So people... 100 metres, people instantly think of world records. They think, women's is 10.49, I think it is at the moment, and the men's is 9.58?
Yep, 9.58.
Yeah, 9.58.
Yep.
So 9.5 versus 10.5 for the guys and the girls. People instantly think 12 is crazy slow. but that is still pretty quick. So sub-elite, junior sprinters, crack 11, what around, if you're really good, like 16, 17 years old kind of thing?
Yeah, somewhere between 11 and a half.
So if you're in sub-12, that's quick. And so you reckon you're sub-12? Or you thought you were?
Thought I was. I've definitely run sub-12 when I was younger. But
probably when you were minus 15 kilos.
Minus 15 kilos and playing soccer full-time on the wing, there's a lot of stimulus of high-speed running.
Yeah, so that's so soccer field is 90 metres long?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you've got a lot of distance to cover, so you're going to spend some time at top speed.
And if you're going from bottom corner to top corner, there is your 100-metre sprint.
Yeah, no. So it brings up a conversation I'd like to round out today, get a little more specific, is the idea of, which we talked about the other day, Josh, yourself, Durham, and myself, we were talking about the idea of distance specificity and the idea that being fast across distances doesn't always correlate to other different distances. So I'd like to unpack that a bit and sort of go down that, because we see a lot of athletes across a range of sports, and the vast majority of athletes have to run. Mm-hmm. Swimmers really don't. Dancers to a less of a degree, but still do need good mechanics. But the idea of different distances have different requirements. Do you want to touch on that for a little bit, and we'll sort of go down that route?
Yeah, sure. Let's dive into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take it away.
All right. Well, where should we start? Probably a shorter distance into...
Yeah, should we talk acceleration first?
Yeah,
and then
let's
sort
talk
of go from there?
Yep. Yeah. Well, acceleration, we're going through mechanics, or how should we unpack it?
Yeah, so I suppose, poor question, my bad.
You're right.
Poor social skills. I've set you up with a very ambiguous term. I suppose when we look at, let's take a sport like volleyball and basketball. Tiny court, basketball, 16 metres foul into foul, and volleyball, I don't even know how long a volleyball court is.
No idea. Couldn't tell you.
We're talking sub 10 metres though per side. So in volleyball, you're going to run, what's the most steps you do continuous? 3?
Yeah.
3 steps and then a dive.
Explosive, yeah.
Yeah. So really in those sports, how fast you can run doesn't actually matter. It's more about how quickly you can react and get that first 2 steps in. So for those athletes, the muscle groups they're using, the energy systems, the mechanics, the movement skills is going to be all acceleration, and then obviously a lot of vertical, because they're going to be doing a lot of jumping. Whereas you take a sport like yours, like playing soccer, and particularly playing on a position like on the wing or the midfield, running end to end, there's going to be times, fast break type situations where you kind of go to 3-on-1 or whatever it might be, where you're actually going to get up to 8, 9, maybe even 10 meters per second and fly down the field, down the pitch.
Yeah.
And so you're going to recruit very, very differently.
And the thing with that is having that 3 step, like you said in the volleyball, with the soccer, I have that space to open up. I'm hitting some top speed numbers, as opposed to just 3 really explosive efforts into a dive and then we're redoing that.
Yeah, and so that acceleration stuff is going to be a lot more piston-like. You're going to see a lot more piston sort of action to it, as opposed to when we run at top speed, it's more cyclical. So the legs kind of roll over each other in sort of an ellipse type shape. If you look at the ankle joint, it's moving like an ellipse. So the muscle stress is going to be very different. So we talk about this relay race with the athletes, and some names got thrown around. Obviously, our track and field athletes got thrown out first, and there was the soccer and footy guys and girls, and then it was all maybe some basketballers. The issue for the basketballers, though, is say we take our strong, explosive basketballers who have 70+ centimetre verticals and sub 3 second 20 metre sprints, they may very well be able to run the 100, but there's a good chance, given they haven't run much of that they're at a higher risk of potentially popping a hamstring. Because when you run at top speed, that's my phone, sorry everyone. Shut that off. Hopefully you didn't hear that. I forgot to airplane mode.
Oh, good.
Basketballs, when they run, so in basketball, you don't really run much more than 20 metres. If you run 20 metres flat out, you're running a penalty most likely. You're not actually going to do that as a game.
End to end, yeah.
So when you run at top speed, you get a lot more hamstring action because of the longer strides and the more length in each stride. So their hamstrings aren't going to be conditioned for that sprint. They're also not going to have the energy system development for a 13-second straight line run. And so those guys, while some of them were toyed around, because I'm picking the athlete team hands down. I don't think you guys have got a chance against particularly some of the athletes we've had in recently who are just absolute beasts.
Yeah, we've got some jets coming in.
Some absolute jets. But that idea of risk for the basketballers is probably much higher than it is for our soccer and our football guys. You're about to, let's not name any names because athlete confidentiality is important, but the athlete you're working with at the moment, the track guy who runs a sub 11?
11 flat. 11:05.
Don't give away too many details, but tell a little bit of his story and talk about his hamstring stuff. And we might talk hamstrings for a little bit.
Yeah, so we had this recent athlete who's actually just about to begin, and he came here for our Nordboard, which we have great access to.
So a hamstring screening type assessment?
Yep, a hamstring screening. And he came in to test his eccentric hamstring strength because he had suffered 4 hamstring strains on the one side in 9 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of hamstring strains in not much time. And so he was a track and field guy?
Track and field guy as well as soccer.
Yeah. And so what did you find? Did you do the Nord test?
Yeah, we did the Nord test. Yep, and it was actually surprisingly good. So we came up with high 400s with about 6% symmetry.
Which is great.
Fantastic.
So 400 newtons per leg, that's awesome.
Yeah, fantastic.
Some studies looking at AFL and soccer guys, pros, is looking at sort of the low 300s as being a cutoff number. So if you're above, say, 3, I think it's 327 based on one study. If you're above 327 and less than 10% asymmetry, you're in the low risk group, they would call that, yeah.
Yeah.
So he's well into that group.
Well into it, yep. Yeah.
And so why do you think he keeps doing his hamstring? And so he's about to start with us, so we're going to try and help him prevent those moving forward. What do you think it is that led to 4 in 9 months?
Yeah, well, going through his screening, obviously not going into too much, but just going through some hip flexor stuff and just range and mobility through his joints, it's quite poor.
So really stiff.
Really stiff, really stiff. And obviously you want a balance of stiffness for those fast explosive.
Yeah. So you need some stiffness to be able to hold good positions, but you don't want too much stiffness.
Yeah, and in this case there was too much stiffness.
Right, so a restrictive level of
restrictive level of stiffness. And for someone who is so explosive, sorry, I headbutted the mic. So for someone who is so explosive with that level of stiffness, is essentially just tearing himself apart.
So he's so springy that when he gets up and open, or tries to get up and open, his restriction leads to an overload through the hamstring.
Yeah.
So his quality, the thing that makes him good at soccer and sprinting, is actually what's pulling him apart down the pitch or down the track.
It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk broad terms. What's the plan for this athlete moving forward?
Yeah, so obviously going from his screening.
First of all, we're putting him on the core advantage track and field. If he's running a sub 11, he's on the team.
He's in the team. Yeah, he's running the last 100.
He's the anchor. Yep, nice.
Yeah, so yes, absolutely. So from his screening, and if we touch back onto that, from our screening, we individually program based on the results. Mm-hmm. So the first thing will be taking him through and getting a routine base of foam rolling, stretching, and basically just undoing all that tightness.
Taking off the handbrakes.
Getting rid of the handbrakes, absolutely. And then from there, just introducing some strength. For someone who is so explosive with no previous athletic development training or strength and conditioning.
So never lifted weights?
Never lifted weights.
Yep. So strength is so crucial. And for this athlete, what's nice is the strength will not only obviously build the hamstring eccentric strength, which already sounds pretty good, but it's going to build global glute strength, entire kinetic chain, awareness, core strength. And what's nice about strength training is not only will it help prevent the hamstring injuries in an isolated sense, in a global sense, it'll also help improve his range of motion, because strength training is a form of mobility training when done appropriately. But also it's going to help him take advantage of that explosiveness that he has.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's going to help him unlock more of that. So it's not only going to, it's going to solve all these athletes' problems at once.
Yeah. And when I was speaking to this athlete about his strength and where he was sitting without having any training, and with his tightness and how explosive he is, he's sitting at an 80% capacity. Like there's still potential to be unlocked.
Mm. Yeah. So he's not at his ceiling in terms of genetic potential, which is really exciting.
Really good. And he's at a perfect age. So we are taking a long-term program for him.
Nice.
Just untapping that last remaining 20%.
Nice.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I think that's kind of it, I think, for today. Anything else you wanted to touch on in terms of speed work, in terms of with your spring's coming up, a lot of athletes go into off season. When they do their running conditioning for their off season, I think the takeaway message for the athletes and for the coaches is to look at your length, look at your distances, your work rest ratios, and keep it as it doesn't have to be sport specificity is such a taboo term. It gets thrown around and people go, well, it's not on a basketball court, therefore it's not basketball sport specific. It has to be sport specific ish. But you also need to look at your distances that your athletes run. So look at the demands of the sport and then look at what they're doing. So if you've got 100-meter athletes who run track and field, the 100, the relay, they need to be doing hundreds, 150s, 80s, 60s, anything around that range, maybe even out to twos as well. But if you've got an athlete who runs marathons, they don't really need to be doing 100-meter sprints. If you have basketballers, sprinting them more than 20 meters is probably not that beneficial. In fact, it's probably opening up and changing the mechanics and working on mechanics they don't really need. Whereas you're better off getting your work done with, continuous short sprints and stuff within that space. And then also don't neglect your change of direction work as well.
Absolutely.
So get athletes doing their conditioning and incorporating something like Game Fit, where they run their, they do a sprint, a deceleration, change of direction, back pedal, all that kind of stuff as well, so that they're getting different energy systems and different muscle groups worked as well. So that they're all staying conditioned so that when you get on the court, first day back for tryouts, get into a scrimmage situation, your muscles are as ready as your energy systems are.
The complete athlete, for sure.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then if you play footy, soccer, rugby, that's where you open up. Those sports, should be getting the cleats on if the grass is a little soft, or getting the sneakers on and getting out and opening up into 30s and 40s.
And the good thing and the great experience, touching back on North Melbourne, is if you're not at a sub-elite level where you have the exposure to someone who's running a pre-season.
Like a semi-elite.
A semi-elite, yeah. A percentage of high-speed running is crucial leading up to a season, without getting too scientific and what the loading is.
Get a little scientific.
No, not too scientific because I'm not 100% sure.
Oh, that's not your area?
Sure. Not my area.
Okay.
So I'm the guy that's massaging and taping, but naturally having the exposure to this, you want to tap into different areas. Yep. So just having a look and chatting to the high performance guys, percentage of high speed running prior to round one is super beneficial.
Yeah, and it's about paying attention to your acute to chronic workload ratio, which is something we do less of in season because athletes tend to take care of that themselves. They seem to those athletes that stay healthy, which is the majority of our athletes, they stay healthy. They go to every single training, they go to every single game. It kind of takes care of itself. They just keep a high level of running in their system, high level of intensity and volume. But it's when athletes are returning from an injury or returning from a holiday or they have the bye, mid-season bye can sometimes be tricky at a sub-elite level where athletes aren't achieving. They have the weekend off and they just don't do anything, which is appropriate. But making sure they balance it out by getting more work done during the week to get them ready for that next weekend. So off seasons, getting some actual programming, paying attention to your volumes and your intensities as well, so make sure you're dealing with both at the same time, is a really cool thing. We'll just wrap up here, but I went to the sports tech conference a couple of weeks ago, and there was a doctor there who was doing some research at La Trobe. They're looking at some machine learning stuff that can automate and build. It's still a while away, so in the meantime, you're still going to need to get some professional advice and talk to your coaches and people like us. But they're working on some machine learning stuff that can automate your off-season training.
Yeah.
So you put in some rules. You say, all right, round one is March 9th. On that day, I'm going to run this far, play football, do this, blah, blah, blah. It can work out, and I want this many rest days per week, and the biggest session has to be this, and the smallest session can be that. And it can automate how much running and your actual workouts.
Wow.
With machine learning stuff. Still a few years away.
Yeah.
But that's really cool, the fact that they're starting to look at, okay, well, you need to do this. We can put all the parameters in, velocities, volume, sets, reps, all that stuff, and it'll work out a progressive plan to get you there as safe as possible.
Yeah.
While paying attention to acute to chronic workload ratio.
Here's my end goal. Here's what I want to tick off. Just get me there.
It's so cool.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Very fascinating. It's not going to be long till a lot of that stuff is just, especially at the elite level, because it'll happen elite first, because that's where the funding obviously is to get these things done. Where elite programs, it's okay, you had this injury here, we need you back by this. This is what the running looks like for the next 4 weeks. And it kind of writes itself. And then you adjust based on auto-regulation, having those conscious coaching conversations like we mentioned before. But it starts from an automated base where it's like, you play this sport on this field, this is what you need to do. Such cool stuff. Yeah.
Incredible.
It's going to be a fascinating future that we live in, I reckon, in the next 5 years or so, where a lot of these things where sports science and the clubs and all sorts of stuff will work out really, okay, the optimal loading is this 3 times a week, 4 times a week, whatever it is, and then progress your athletes along like that. Freaky stuff. We need to make sure we keep up our other skills, otherwise we could be out of a job.
Absolutely.
I don't think the weight stuff is. I think the weight stuff's even further away.
No, and there's always that personality to it. No one's going to listen to a computer.
Exactly. You still, and it's going to be a while before we trust those computers to do it as well. So we need to take use the technology to our advantage, but also then, okay, sure, that might be what you think, but then we know these contextual things as well about our athletes and going from there.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome, Pat. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
This has been really fun.
Fantastic.
Awesome. We'll see you guys all around later.
Bye, guys.
And before you go, hear from our alumni about the online mentorship.
I learnt the theory stuff at uni, but I didn't know how to apply it. And coming to Core Advantage was how I bridged that gap. So I knew the stuff, but I didn't know how to do the stuff.
It was something that I needed to do personally for my own development, and it's allowed me to work in elite sport for now 5 years, so it was a massive help.
I think mentorship is really important, and being able to ask questions all the time, and the Core Advantage course allows that because there is a big team of people that you can ask questions.
I get to train professional athletes every week, work really closely with professional athletes, which is awesome. A lot of the skills that I'm applying, I learned through the program at Core Advantage.
It's not just something that you read and then think about and then go, oh, how does that tie into everything? It's something that practical that you can turn around and go, this is exactly how I'm going to apply it. And the concepts that you learn help you as a coach, as a professional, as a person. Yeah, it's awesome. Definitely go and do it.
Semester 3 of the mentorship is now open. Apply at coreadvantage.training/mentorship.